Well, hello, my dear students. Let us now try to finish this chapter. Yes, let us discuss the duties and obligations of an agent and the remaining provisions of agency. Very important for case based questions. And there is one part which was not there earlier, but they have added this specifically for your attempt, and that is the personal liability of agent to the third party. So what I have done is I have made these simple easy notes. We are going to study everything in a very simple manner. Let's get started. So you will feel that, man, this chapter was although very lengthy, but again very interesting because we simplified each and every provision. So, duties and obligations of an agent, think from the point of view of an agent. Now, case based questions will generally be asked from this part. Section numbers are important. So, we have important section numbers first, highlight them. Section 211, 212, 215, and 216. So these are very important. Recently, I have seen questions asked on 217, but yes, not very frequently asked. However, very frequently asked in the exam: 211, 212, 215, and 216. Agent's duty in conducting the principal's business. See, agent, you are only a connecting link between the principal and the third party. Don't apply your brain. Follow the instructions of the principal. So, law says that the agent should conduct the business as per the instructions of the principal. Now, if the principal has given instructions, then the agent must follow those instructions. But what if the principal has not given any instructions? Agent, you try to obtain the instructions from the principal. Okay, you try and obtain the instructions from the principal. But if that is not possible, then the agent must follow. Then the agent must follow the trade customs. Okay, so first try to obtain the instructions from the principal. If he has given instructions, follow those instructions. But principal has not given any instruction, then you will follow the trade customs. The agent should conduct the principal's business, highlight, as per the directions of the principal. And what if the principal has not given any directions? In absence of any direction, you must follow the trade customs. Okay, so first try to follow the directions of the principal. If the principal has not given any directions, then you will follow the trade custom. There is a case law, Pannalal Janki Das versus Mohanlal. Although it is not there in your syllabus, but the case will help you to understand the concept. Now, what were the facts of the case? Pannalal Janki Das, incorrect, is Jana. Pannalal Janki Das were commission agents. Okay, they were commission agents. Mr. Mohanlal had asked them to purchase goods, and he had also instructed them to insure those goods. Now, Pannalal Janki Das, they purchased the goods, and the goods were kept in the Mumbai harbor. That time it was Bombay harbor, old name. They purchased the goods and kept the goods at Bombay Harbour. But the goods were destroyed due to an explosion in the Bombay Harbour. So goods were destroyed either by explosion or by fire. Okay. So they kept the goods at the Bombay Harbour, but the goods were destroyed by fire. Okay. Now, the government, they passed an ordinance. Okay. The government passed an ordinance. Ordinance means immediately they passed a law or immediately they made a statement. They passed an ordinance that we will give only 50% of the damages. Okay, we will compensate 50% of the damages, or 50% compensation will be given in case of uninsured goods, and 100% compensation shall be given in case of insured goods. Now, Pannalal Janki Das, they got 50% compensation because they had not insured the goods. They went to Mohanlal and said that, see, we had purchased the goods for you. We had kept the goods in the Bombay Harbour, but the goods are destroyed. We got 50% from the government. You pay the remaining 50% because we purchased the goods for you. Mohanlal reminded them, don't you remember that I had asked you to insure the goods? You did not follow my instructions. Why should I pay? So Pannalal Janki Das filed a case against Mohanlal. What do you think, students? Are they entitled to the balance amount as compensation? No. Why no? Because they had not followed instructions of the principal. So if the agent fails to follow the instruction of the principal, then the agent will be responsible for the loss. So in this case, Pannalal Janki Das will be responsible for the balance 50%. So over here, Mohanlal refused to pay. Pannalal Janki Das had failed to insure the goods. They had not followed instructions of the principal. Hence, they shall be liable. Okay. So they failed to insure, they did not follow the instructions. Hence, they shall bear the remaining loss. All right. What if they had insured the goods? Then they would have got 100% compensation from the government. Did you finish writing this? I don't think it will be asked in the exam, but you should know these facts so that you are able to solve in case a question is asked. When the agent acts otherwise, the agent will be liable to the principal for any loss incurred, and if there is any profit, that will be returned to the principal, because agent is not the owner of goods. He can't keep the profit. He must accrue, or he must account for it. It means he must return the profit to the principal. Account for it means return profit to the principal. Okay. Now, so you need to follow the directions of the principal, or if there is no direction, follow the trade customs. If the agent acts otherwise, then he will be liable for any loss, and if there is profit, he must give it to the principal. We engaged an agent Now, these can be asked as case-based questions, so please highlight them as important. Okay, they can be asked as case-based questions. Now, B, engaged an agent for business. Okay. Now, it is not in customary, sorry, it is customary to invest from time to time at interest the monies which are in hand. So, why to keep the money idle? So, in their line of business, it was a normal trade custom to invest that excess money in hand, and whatever that amount yielded interest, that was the benefit of that money. Now, A omits to make such investments. See, there were no instructions from the principal, but it is customary. Okay, there was no instruction from the principal, but it was customary to invest that money. He did not follow the trade customs. A must make good the interest usually obtained from such investment. So, A must compensate B for the interest. Okay, A must compensate B for the interest which is usually obtained from that investment. Be a broker in whose business it is not customary to sell the goods on credit. Okay, there is no trade custom to sell the goods on credit. So B, in whose line of business it is not customary to sell the goods on credit, sells the goods of A on credit to C, whose credit at the time was very high. Credit was very high means he had taken lot of goods and money on credit. C became insolvent. Who will bear the loss? B will bear the loss. Why? Because it was not the custom to sell the goods on credit. It was not customary to sell the goods on credit. But in spite of that, you sold the goods on credit. If C became insolvent, okay, he became insolvent, then B will have to compensate for whatever loss is suffered by. Then we have reasonable duty of reasonable care and skill. Look, agent, you need to exercise reasonable care and skill while exercising your duties as an agent. The agent is bound to conduct the business with reasonable care and skill. And what is the meaning of reasonable care and skill? See, whenever you are selling the goods to the third party, check his solvency, maintain proper accounts, check whether that person is capable of making payment or not. So the agent is bound to conduct the business with reasonable care and skill. What if he is negligent? Then the agent will be liable for whatever loss is suffered by the principal. The agent must compensate the principal for any loss suffered as a direct consequence. Let's highlight only the keywords. Why highlight everything? The agent must compensate whom? The principal. For what? For any loss suffered as a direct consequence of his neglect, want of skill, or misconduct. Want of skill means we required skill, it was not present. Agent will be liable. So the agent must compensate whom? The principal. What? For any loss suffered, which is a direct cause. Now the loss is because of the agent's misconduct, negligence, want of skill. Okay? Direct consequence means it is directly because of the agent's negligent, want of skill, or misconduct. Agent is liable. The agent, without making any proper inquiries, sold the goods on credit to B. B was already insolvent at the time of sale. A did not check. Who will be liable? Of course, A will be liable. Agent was having the authority to sell, but he sold the goods on credit. Okay, he sells the goods on credit without making proper and usual inquiries. So B is insolvent. A must make the compensation to principal. Okay. A directs B to send 100 bales of cotton by a certain ship. B omits to send the cotton. Now, in this case, the ship safely arrives at England, but soon after the arrival, the price of cotton rises. We had asked you to send 100 bales of cotton. If you would have sent, the dealer would have sold the cotton at a very high price. So A is bound to make B is bound to make good the profit which he might have made by the 100 bales of cotton. Let's discuss with the help of actual numbers. Let's say that A had directed B to send cotton. Okay, now let's say that the ship was supposed to reach on 5th of April. So if you would have sent the cotton, then cost price was, let's say, 100 rupees, and I would have sold it for 150 because that was the market price which was prevailing when I had sent the cotton. So he was expecting to make 50 rupees. Then the price increased to 170 rupees. Can I ask him to give me 70 rupees? You can claim only 50 rupees which you were expecting to earn. So, ma'am, it is very tricky, yes. But see, at the time of contract of sale, what was the market price? So you thought that if I sell it in England, I will earn not rupees, but yes, pounds. So the price is, let's say, 100 pounds. Let's change it to pounds if you want. Rupees is somewhat easy to understand. So here you were expecting to make a profit of 50 pounds. Now the price increased subsequently. You will not get 70 pounds. You will get only 50 pounds which you were expecting to make. Which the parties knew that if there is breach, this is the loss which may be caused to the principal. So he might have, A is bound to make good the profit which he might have made by the bales at the time the ship arrived, but not any profit which he might have made by the subsequent price. So let's say that at the time the ship arrived, okay, let's write the cost is 100. The ship was supposed to arrive. Ship arrived on 5th of April. On that day, I was hoping that I will make 50 rupees because that was the market price. But you did not send, and later the price increased. Like after 2 days only, the price increased to 170. You will get 150 only, which you were expecting to make 50 rupees. Duty to render proper accounts. Okay, duty to render proper accounts. See, now the principal keeps sending goods to the agent. Okay, he keeps sending goods to the agent. So agent sells them, then he incurs various expenses. So this continues. Now agent needs to maintain proper record. For what? For the goods sold, for any expenses incurred, for his commission, for any advances that he has made for the principal. So whatever is the account, you need to properly maintain it and you need to give it to the principal whenever demanded. Please note, students, you are not only supposed to maintain the accounts, but you are also required to preserve the vouchers along with it. Now, what is a voucher? The voucher is actually a document which shows which account is to be debited, which account is to be credited. The amount is mentioned, the name of the party is mentioned, the authorized signatory is mentioned. Along with that invoice, you will attach the bill. So let's say I purchase stationery for the business. So you will debit profit and loss account, or you will debit your stationery account. Okay, let's say we will debit our stationery account, and you will credit your cash or bank account. Amount is 5,000 worth of stationery. Person who authorized this payment. It is written in words. Name of the supplier is mentioned. Along with this, we will attach a bill of the stationery for 5,000 given by the supplier. So that makes a voucher. The agent has to maintain and to render means provide, proper accounts to the principal whenever demanded. So you must maintain the record of goods sold, expenses, advance, commission, etc. He is bound to pay to the principal, bound to pay the principal all the sums received. So whatever you have received, you're bound to pay. But yes, I agree. From that, you can retain your commission, expenses, advance, etc. Rendering does not mean just showing the accounts, but you also need to support it by voucher. Okay, you need to support it by voucher. Then we have section 214. In case of any emergency, see, before you take any action, please obtain the instructions of the principal. Okay? So the agent, in case of difficulty, in case of an emergency, he is bound to use all the reasonable diligence in communicating with the principal. So use all your diligence. Try to contact, send an SMS, email, try to contact the office, try to obtain instructions. If everything fails, then you can, on your own, you can act to save the principal from losses. Duty to avoid the conflict of interest, it means duty not to deal on his own account. 215 and 216, they both are connected. Now, let's say that A had directed B to sell his estate. So he said that I have a shop. Why don't you go and sell it? Now B wants to buy the shop for himself. So he told A, I have a person C, but he is asking for discount. Okay, you sell at whatever best price you can get. So B got that shop as discount. See, if B would have said that I want to buy it for myself, A would have never given the discount. So B is very smart. He tells A, Arey, that person C wants to buy, but he's asking for discount. Okay, sell it. So B buys it in the name of C does not exist only. B is just taking any random name. Okay, so B tells that C wants to buy and then he buys it for himself in the name of C. See, it is very simple to trick the principal. So B buys it in the name of C. So he shows that C is the buyer. And then later, who's going to come and check? He will then tell tell C to transfer it in the name of B, and then B will buy it from C. Everything is on paper. Maybe C is not an actual person. I just wrote somebody's name and I gave cash. Or maybe C is my friend. So I bought it in the name of my friend and then he transferred that property to B. It is very much possible. No? So B wanted to buy the property for himself, but he does not disclose that to A. Okay. So B buys the estate for himself in the name of C. A, on discovering that B has bought the shop or estate for himself, can repudiate the contract. He can say, but I had asked you to sell at 10 lakhs and you told me that somebody wants to buy it at 8 lakhs and you bought it for yourself. You lied to me. He can repudiate the contract if he can show that B dishonestly concealed any material fact or the sale was disadvantageous to him. I lost 2 lakh rupees. If some third person would have bought it, I would have got 10 lakh rupees. You told I want a discount and you convinced me that I will not be able to sell this estate to anyone else. So B, you caused loss to me. You can recover that loss from me and you can also repudiate the transaction. I don't want to sell it to you. So an agent is bound to disclose. No, not this one. Agent should not deal on his own account unless he obtains the instruction, the consent of the principal. So you cannot deal in your own account without obtaining the consent of the principal. If you want to buy, tell the principal I want to buy it. Otherwise, the principal may repudiate the transaction and he can claim any benefit which may have resulted to him. Him means agent. He can claim from the agent any benefit which may have resulted to the agent from this transaction. Here, ma'am, he did not claim any benefit because there was no benefit which B got. In fact, A suffered loss, so A can recover that from. There is one example which we are going to discuss when we discuss the compiler questions. A asked B to sell a shop, but B purchased the shop for himself, okay, in the name of C. Then he sold it to D and earned 6 lakhs profit. A came to know about it. He came to know that B had sold the shop to D, earned 6 lakhs profit. So in this case, A can claim that profit from B. Okay, A can claim it from B. So over here, the agent should not deal on his own account without first obtaining the instruction, the consent of the principal. If agent is dealing on his own account, then the principal may repudiate the transaction and claim from the agent any benefit which the agent may have earned from that transaction. Agent, if you have come across some material fact, okay, they have come to your knowledge, you have to disclose it to the principal. And if you want to buy that for yourself, ask the principal. I'll give you a very simple example. A had directed B to sell his estate. B discovers that there is a mine on that estate. That mine is worth crores of rupees, but he does not disclose it to A. Maybe A was not aware of this. So A had very casually asked B to sell the land. B found that there is a mine over there, but he did not disclose it to A. Conceals that fact from A, and he just tells A, "Arey, why are you selling it to someone else? I will only buy it from you." Okay, so he says, "I'll only buy it." B did not tell him that I have discovered a mine over here. I'll only buy it. He buys it. Now, in this case, if A later comes to know about the existence of the mine, he can repudiate the contract. And if B has made any profit, he can claim that profit from B. So over here, he can either repudiate the contract or he can adopt the sale at his option. Ma'am, what is the meaning of adoption? Now, let's say that B sold that mine to. So it is possible that A may tell B, cancel the contract, and I want my mine back. Okay, this is one option. So A can recover that mine from C. Or A can tell B, all right. Or, or A can tell B, all right, I will keep the contract valid. Keep the contract of sale valid. Okay, I will keep the contract of sale valid. But B, you return whatever profit you have earned to A. So you can either cancel the contract and take the mine back, or you can tell B that whatever profit you have earned, you give it to me and I will not cancel the sale. If the agent fails to disclose it, principal may repudiate the transaction if it shows that the material transaction was or fact was concealed from him, or the dealings were disadvantaged. And what is the difference between these 2 points? Nothing. There's no difference. So agent is bound to disclose all the material transactions. Material means if he wants to buy the property for himself, then also he needs to disclose. If he fails to disclose, then he may repudiate the transaction. Or he can say, I'm treating it as valid, you return the profit to me. Okay. If any agent, without the knowledge of the principal, deals in the business of agency on his own account, A tells B to buy a house. B tells him, "Arey, who told you that house was for sale?" And then B goes and buys it for himself. If you wanted to buy that, you should have asked us, no? He informs that the house cannot be bought and then he buys it for himself. Then the principal is entitled to claim from the agent any benefit which may have resulted from the transaction. And they are more or less the same. We are still confused when to apply section 215 and when to apply 216. Let's discuss again. When the when the agent deals on his own account, without the principal's consent. And section 216 says if the agent has received any benefit, that benefit can be claimed by the principal. That's it. Can I say that more or less both the points say the same thing? Yes. Section 215 says if you want to deal on your own account, obtain the consent of the principal. If you have any material finding, tell the principal. If you find something important, inform the principal. If you don't, he can terminate the contract, repudiate the contract. If you are buying things for yourself and you are earning profit, that can be claimed by the principal, section 216. So section 216 only says that if you earn any profit from such concealment, give us that profit. So 215 says that if you want to deal on your own account or if you find some material transaction, tell us. Otherwise, we can repudiate the contract. Or even if we treat it as valid, we can recover that loss from you. We can recover that profit from you. Right? Duty not to make secret profit. See, the relation between the principal and agent is that of trust and confidence. It is a contract of utmost good faith. Yes, the contract between the principal and agent is a contract of utmost good faith. You are getting commission, no? Why you want to make secret profit? If you do, return that profit to the principal. It is the duty of the agent not to make any secret profit in the business of agency. The relation is a fiduciary relation. What is the meaning of fiduciary? Fiduciary means it is a relation of trust and confidence. It is a relation which requires absolute good faith. It requires absolute good faith. Secret profit is advantage obtained by the agent over and above his remuneration. This is a profit which you would have not made if you were not an agent. You made this profit only because of agency. Otherwise, you would have not made this secret profit. Return. Give it to the principal. You cannot make any secret profit. The relation between principal and agency is based on utmost good faith. If you have obtained any advantage over and above your remuneration, give it back. Give it back. Don't keep it with yourself. Did you understand, students? Yes. Students, please note in section 215, if you feel that the agent has dealt without obtaining the consent of the principal, or he hides a material fact, the right to repudiate the transaction is given to the principal under section 215. And if there is any profit that can be recovered and that is covered in section 216, please remember this. 215 allows me to cancel the contract and 216 allows me to claim any benefit that the agent has earned because of the principal. Yes. Okay, I'm just thinking whether I should continue or whether we should stop here because I will not be able to cover everything in one lecture itself. I will need to. So let's now discuss principal's liability for agents act to third party. I will not cover anything extra, just this part, and then we will discuss the remaining in the next lecture because otherwise lecture will become too lengthy. Principal's liability, what kind of questions can be asked? Mostly case based. Theory won't be asked. Principal's liability for agents act to third party. Yes. Principal obviously is liable for the acts of agent, the third party. So principal is liable for the act of agent to the third party. This is what a normal rule says. So yes, that is what we are trying to study. Is the principal liable for the acts of agent to the third party? Yes. Principal is liable for acts of agent which are within the scope of authority. Let's go deeper now. So yes, principal is liable for which transaction? Authorized transaction. Let me ask you one tricky question. Let's see whether you are able to answer. Principal is liable to the third party for all the authorized acts of agent. Now the agent was authorized to buy rice, but along with rice, he also bought wheat. Now wheat is an unauthorized transaction. Principal has two options. First option, I didn't ask you to buy wheat. I will not pay for it. Principal is liable. Okay, principal is liable to pay for rice only. This is given under section 220. But what if, tell me, but what if he ratifies the act of agent? What if he ratifies? Ah, very good. You are very smart to identify. Then the principal shall be liable to pay not only for rice but also, okay, so yes, we are liable for the authorized acts, but what if we ratify the act of agent? Then the principal is liable to pay not only for the rice but also wheat. You want to write this? Contracts entered through an agent may be enforced in the same manner. It will have the same effect as if it is done by the principal. So please write one statement here. Contracts by agent are as if it is contract by principal only. Okay. So contract by agent, written contract by act? No, no. It is contract by agent is as if contract is by the principal only. Principal is liable. So contracts entered by the agent can be enforced in the same manner as if they have been entered by the principal. Enforced means principal can file a case even though he was not the one to enter into contract. Agent enter into contract on his behalf with the third party. But principal can enforce the contract. Principal can file case against the third party. So maybe enforced, it means principal can sue third party. Okay, it can be enforced means principal can sue the third party as if it is a contract entered by the principal. Principal, how far is he bound when the agent exceeds authority? Now, do you remember we had studied in Contract Act that sometimes the transaction or sometimes the agreement consists of two parts. One is legal, other is illegal. Or you can also say it consists of lawful and unlawful. Yes. So agreement consists of some lawful part as well as unlawful part. Do you remember that section 24 of Contract Act? So if the lawful can be separated from the unlawful, then what will happen? Tell me. If the lawful can be separated from the unlawful. Yes, absolutely right. The lawful will be valid and the unlawful part will become void. But what if, tell me, the lawful part cannot be separated. Okay, it cannot be separated from the unlawful. Then what will happen? Everything will become unlawful and void. Yes. Entire agreement will become unlawful. Hence, do you remember this? Yes. Now, keep that in mind and read this. The agent has done some act which is partly lawful, partly unlawful. What if the lawful part can be separated? Then the principal is liable only for the lawful part. He is not liable for the unlawful part. Then who's liable for the unlawful part? Agent himself will be liable. But what if it cannot be separated? Then everything will become unlawful and the agent will be liable. So let's relate it to agency now. The act of agent consists of something which is authorized and unauthorized. Okay, the agent has done something which is authorized and which is not authorized. Now, if the authorized can be separated from the unauthorized, then for the authorized act, principal is liable, and for the unauthorized, agent himself will be liable to third party. But what if the authorized cannot be separated? From the unauthorized. Then what will happen? Yes. Then for everything, agent will be liable to third party. Agent will be liable to third party. For entire contract. And we have a doubt. Authorized can be separated from the unauthorized. Yeah. So principal is liable for authorized, for unauthorized agent. This much be understood. What if for this unauthorized act, the principal is ratifying it? Of course, then the principal will be liable. So here, principal may be liable by ratification. If the principal ratifies this unauthorized, then he may be liable. So I have given you so many combinations. The act of the agent consists of something which is authorized, some unauthorized. If both can be separated, principal is liable for authorized, agent is liable for unauthorized, unless the principal by ratification confirms it. If it cannot be separated, then the agent is liable to the third party for the entire contract. Let's read it now. You can pause the video and write this in your notebook. Done. Okay. The principal is bound by the unauthorized acts. So principal is bound by the authorized acts. When the authorized and unauthorized can be separated. But if it cannot be separated, then the agent is liable. Now, A is the owner of ship and cargo. He authorizes B to obtain insurance on ship, but B obtains insurance on ship as well as cargo. Now, if the insurance amount can be separated, then A will be liable only for the insurance of ship, not cargo. But if it cannot be separated, then he is not liable for anything. Principal is not bound to recognize the entire transaction for the unauthorized acts when the authorized cannot be separated from the unauthorized. So in that case, the principal is not liable. Then who is liable? Agent is liable. He is liable. Now A has authorized B to buy rice. Now B buys 100 kg of rice as well as 20 kg of wheat. He doesn't remember how much is for rice, how much is for wheat. He doesn't remember the amount. Then the principal will not be liable. Agent will be liable for the entire transaction. And what if we ratify? Then the principal will be liable. So for one sum of 10,000, this is important for us. He doesn't know the breakup. So it means agent doesn't have the breakup. Then agent is only liable. You don't know how much is for wheat, how much is for. Notice given to agent is as if notice given to principal. Knowledge of agent is knowledge of principal. Ma'am, what does it mean? It means something told to the agent is as if it is told to the principal also. How come? How can you assume? Because we assume that both communicate on daily basis. Now, pay attention. Very interesting example. If you tell your mom something, it is as if you have told your dad, go with the assumption that both communicate on daily basis. Like, sometimes when I tell my mom something, my dad knows about it the next day. So then sometimes I have to tell her, please don't tell dad. But I'm telling you, even then they tell. My son also complains. If he tells me something and I feel that my husband should know about it, I tell it to him because it's assumed that we communicate about on daily basis. So I try not to do that. If my son tells, don't tell dad, I generally don't tell, but sometimes I do tell him because he also should know what is happening in his son's life. So, but yeah, you can assume if you tell your mom something, it is a presumption that your dad knows about it. She will tell him. Knowledge of agent is knowledge of principal. One assumption is that they communicate on daily basis. So the agent must have told the principal about it. What is our assumption? It is as if our assumption is that they talk on daily basis. So if we tell something to the agent, it is as if we have told the principal. Pay attention to the example. It is slightly tricky. Z owes 1,000 to Z has to pay 1,000 to X. He doesn't have money. X is very angry. So he tells his agent Y, go to Z's warehouse, buy goods. He's not paying money, now you buy goods. I went to the warehouse. He selected goods worth 5,000. Z said, all right, you take 5,000, no problem. But these are not my goods. These goods belong to M, some third person. Y says nothing doing. I liked these goods, I'm going to buy these goods only. All right. My question is, now Z had to pay 1000 rupees to X, and now he has to receive 5000 rupees from X. So can X say, see, I have to pay you 5000 and I need to recover 1000 from you. I'll pay you only 4000. Will X get set off in this case? That is my question. If you say yes, then your answer is wrong. And if you say no, he's not entitled, then it is correct. Why? See, you will get set off only when money is to be paid and it is to be received from the same person. Now here we need to receive money from Z, but we need to pay money to M. They are not the same person. So in this case, he's not entitled to set off. No. He will get set off only when he has to pay money and receive money from the same person. So here he has to receive from Z and he has to pay M. They are not the same person. So no set off. Now, knowledge, let us incorporate that. Can X argue with Z? Arey, but I didn't know about it. I thought that because he bought the goods from you, I need to pay money to you only. I didn't know about it. But your agent knew about it. Your agent knew about it. Knowledge of agent is knowledge of principal. We had told him that these goods belong to M and he was okay with it. So he cannot argue that, Arey, you didn't tell me. We told your agent. So agent was aware that goods belong to M. Now you will not get any set off. Liability of principal inducing belief that the agent's unauthorized acts were authorized. The principal is leading the third party to believe that acts of agents are authorized. That, Arey, I know what he is doing. Okay, so principal is leading the third person to believe that agents' unauthorized acts are actually authorized. Ma'am, how? A informs C that his agent B has the authority to sell. But he did not inform C that B has the authority to sell the goods at above a minimum price. That information was not given. He fails to inform that the restriction is not to sell below a fixed price. You cannot sell below this price, you have to sell it above only. That was not informed. Now, B, the agent, sold goods at below the reserve price. Can we recover that difference from C? Arey, no, he was not supposed to sell at below 10,000. You give us the balance. No. You led us to believe that B has the authority to sell at whatever price he is quoting. You didn't tell us about this restriction. Principal is not liable. Principal is liable in this case. Principal is bound by the agent unauthorized act if he means principal, by his words or action induces a third party to believe that the acts were authorized. With example now. Principal A is bound by agent B's unauthorized acts as if he, principal, by his words or actions, induced a third person, in my example C, to believe that the acts were authorized. So A has led C to believe that B's acts are authorized. A is liable. What is the effect of misrepresentation or fraud by the agency? Your misrepresentation is not innocent. What is the effect? Contract is voidable. Misrepresentation and fraud makes the contract voidable. The principal is liable, but only for the frauds and misrepresentation done by the agent in matters falling within agent's authority. Then, ma'am, who is liable for the fraud or misrepresentation by agent which is not in his authority? Agent himself is liable. Misrepresentation or fraud by the agent in matters which do not fall within their authority does not affect the principal, that is, agent is himself liable to third party. So can I say that the principal is liable only if the agent commits fraud or misrepresentation in some authorized act? But if the fraud or misrepresentation is committed in an unauthorized act, anyways the principal is not liable, agent himself is. X appoints Y as an agent to sell the goods. Now agent induces Z to buy the goods by fraud or misrepresentation without any authority. He didn't have the authority to make that statement. Then in this case, the contract is voidable between X and Z. Who is the aggrieved party? Z. So the contract is voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. A is the captain of the ship. Okay, he is the captain of B's ship. He signs a bill of lading without having received the goods. See, you will sign the bill of lading as a proof that I have received the goods on board. He signed it without receiving the goods. The bill of lading is void between B and the consignor because agent never had the authority to do this. Getting me? As captain, never had the authority accept without receiving goods on board. So this bill of lading will be misleading, no? It is misrepresentation. You are giving an impression that the goods are already received, whereas they were not. So it is void between B, that is owner of the ship, and the. So in this case, you can also say it is voidable because agent was not authorized. So you can. I think students, with this we have come to an end of today's session at least. I don't want to continue further, that we will cover in the next lecture. The reason is because sometimes it becomes too much because agency is very vast chapter and it's new. So let's phase it out. I'll see you next time. But keep reading. These examples can be slightly tricky here and there. So you need to go through these examples. You need to learn the provisions. See, I have given you only 2 sentences, two bullet points. So try to learn them. If you're not able to learn, write and practice. But make sure that you are able to memorize the keywords, the key points. Yes. So let's end today's session. I will see you next time, and that will finally be the end of our session.